All right, so we'll move to the last item of the day, and I'll just familiarize you with what you have before you since we pulled it together. And I will say this, just globally, having done retreats for this, I guess would be my 16th year, they are notoriously last minute. That's how all retreats are. And so we don't often send the materials out in advance. So this may be a particular item that as you look at it, and it's a pretty thick stack, that discussion may be limited today, and we may have to defer that discussion to a future work session. That'll be up to you all. But what you have is a summary sheet on the first page that shows you our interpretation of some comparable counties and what they are currently doing from an economic development standpoint. And then what follows are all of those individual documents. And this was collected by the EDC staff for us and compiled for you all so that you have it in terms of your discussion on this matter. And so you can see the summary table will give you the minimum investment requirements, the grant amount, what percentage it is, the standard term, the term length exceptions, any jobs or wage requirements. So I will leave it there unless Mike wants to add anything and turn it over to the board for any discussion you want to have.
You covered pretty well. I wanted to you guys had several questions, and throughout the year, we only have discussed the buildings. Well, and you, what others were doing, out of the area, and based on that, do you have any debt to arts for a college that have inflates in that way? Would that be all, or as some of the like in here? Like you can see, for the most part, we're very similar to what the other but
I meant to say one thing. So just so you're all on the same page, when you see on the summary table, Cumberland County and Johnston County, where it says flexible, basically our reading is they essentially have no policy. It is come to us with what you want and we will determine if we give it to you. So they don't have guardrails on their policies.
And this is, would you rather add discuss it now, or would you rather whatever it is in here and get back into her and come at?
I would think that we probably wouldn't want to look through it, but it's pretty simple to me, as far as I'm concerned. I know that we're very competitive and all that, but on behalf of the EDC, I don't think that they raise up big red flags that says come to Cabarrus County and we'll give you incentive to come here. I think that what happens is if they have a request for information about Cabarrus County and they talk to our EDC staff, that I don't, and I mean, I've never asked Paige, but I know she would tell me if I ask her, do you say, if you come to Cabarrus County, we're going to do this, and this for you? I think if they ask for it, then that's something that they negotiate before they ever even bring it to us. So it's not like they're running a red flag up saying, come here, we'll do all these things for you. It's only if they ask for it. And then in some cases, we've had to review businesses and industry to come in that we did not vote to incentivize because it wasn't what we were looking for. It's just like right now. I feel like that if we was to have a business come in that wanted to do distribution, we probably would not incentivize that simply because we got too many distribution centers already. But now if you bring in something like life sciences or things of that nature, like Eli Lilly, yeah, we're going to help you get here some way. We're going to roll the red carpet out to get you here if we can. But anyway, that's just my take on it. And I'm very much pro economic development because I know in my heart that that's the future of this county. That's the jobs for our children and for our grandchildren so that they don't have to go travel places. But I'm good with it. I don't require any more discussion on it myself, but whatever the board wants, I'm part of it, and I'll do whatever we have to.
I think one of the misconceptions is that we incentivize everybody. The only ones that typically come in front of us at our regular session are the ones that we've given guidance that we'll approve, because the goal is not to humiliate a company publicly. So we do turn some down. But I would like an update, if we can, on, I know the EDC filled a spot that specializes with small business and existing businesses. I kind of like an update as to what an incentive looks like for existing companies or small businesses. I know it's completely different than a new one, but I'm just curious if we've had some progress on that front. So if possible, it'd be nice to see. And I'd also like to point out that it does say on our front page here up to 85%. So we do have the flexibility if we don't agree with 85 and 15 or 3 years or 5. We do have the flexibility, which I appreciate, having that flexibility to say, you know what, maybe let's try 80-20 or maybe try to move the needle down. But as it's written, I don't have a problem with it how it's written.
And some of what some of it is you say that off loud. That doesn't make that easy. So that you report for by flying. I think for the Alex are that opposing you this plays there. But what?
It is part of what they do. Do they work in conjunction with RCCC for that, like business plans? They offer that. So is that
Decision doesn't goes that's a good event that they can see you the beers makes to gap you work to use that party. They thought you get down they buy this outfit or that close to another. But I can.
I would I very, very much like Commissioner Shue said, you know, I've looked at this at our policy numerous times over quite a few years. I'm perfectly satisfied with it. I think that we have, as I think somebody used the word, guardrails. We also have flexibility to do what we need to do to secure the projects that we have. I mean, we don't go out advertising it. You know, I'm going to repeat some of the things that I probably have said before, but I think certainly because of the proximity of where we're sitting right now, we can look out the window and look up the street and see the construction going on at Eli Lilly. We're talking, you know, the way that, and no bad reflection on our finance people, but they have to follow the rules as to how they report things that show an economic development incentive as an expense, which when you truly analyze it, it is not. And so the example that I've used repeatedly is the 400 acres that Eli Lilly is currently building their facility on. It was on the tax books at $22 million before they bought it. We were realizing an annual revenue, tax revenue on that property of about roughly $360,000 a year for some. I'm sure that value has increased and changed over the years. But if they had not purchased that property, that's what we'd still be getting, $360,000 a year. The property owner, as I understand it, had to buy out an option that a national home builder had on that property in order to be able to sell it to Eli Lilly. Their proposal was to build 1,400 single-family residents on that property. That would have been, if you count one child per school, per house, which I think is probably low, that would have been 1,400 children in our school system, additional. that would have been roughly equivalent to 2 elementary schools, which I think most of those are now $700 to $750 per school. The figure that I used for those elementary schools was $30 million apiece. The figure that we heard earlier today was $50 million apiece, but let's stay with the $30 million. If those houses that were built out there were the median home price for the city of Concord, which was in an article in the Charlotte Observer within the last 2 weeks, was $353,000 and change, and you use the current tax rate, and we're getting ready to reduce that tax rate, but use the current tax rate, the revenue, 100% of all the tax revenue from every single one of those houses, it would take 16 years to collect enough taxes just to pay the $60 million for the 2 elementary schools. That does not count any interest. If we had to borrow the money to do that, that does not count any of the other additional expenses that will go along with it, that would be related to the school system. That would not count any of the other county services that we would have to provide, like EMS services, libraries, parks, law enforcement, public safety. Some of that would be city as opposed to county, but it would be a huge drain on our resources. In addition to that, I think you can safely estimate two cars per house, so that's an additional 2,800 cars right out in front of us on 29 and all the other roads in Cabarrus County. And so that's the alternative. Instead of doing that, we were able to attract Eli Lilly to come to that property. That took a lot of work from our economic development folks over a long period of time. And so I had an opportunity to sit next to the president of Eli Lilly at the luncheon that they had when they had a groundbreaking. And I asked him and others, how many other locations did you guys look at other than Cabarrus County? And the answer was 20. We had 22 locations under consideration. And I think and I didn't have the opportunity to have the lengthy conversation with him, but when you say, so why did you choose Cabarrus County out of those 22 counties or 22 locations? And I think there's the quality of the school system, the proximity to major transportation arteries. We're close to 77 and 85. The availability of property, the cost of the property, the political climate in the community, and the proximity to an international airport, and those are some of the things that are frequently mentioned. So the incentive was a piece of that, just like every other community. I was at a meeting the other day, and the guy said, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're on the menu. I think that's the term that he used. And the same here. If we don't play the game, then we're not in consideration at all, whether we like it or not. So we went that route. That $360,000 that we've been getting every year in tax revenue off that property, Eli Lilly purchased that property, began construction on that facility, and it's my understanding that their tax bill last year was $1.2 million. So it increased from $360,000 to $1.2 million. This next year, they're at a much higher level of completion on their facility. That tax bill is going to double or triple. And their incentive period hadn't even started yet. And people in the community asked me, tell me how these incentives work. And And so there are the people in this room right now that if I say it wrong, they can correct me. But you come up with the incentive agreement, and that's based on these companies must do A, B, C, D. They have to do all these things. And they have to invest the amount that they promised to invest. They have to, the wage requirement is something that we always talk about. And they also are told up front, if you agree to this incentive agreement, you will be audited every single year that you're in that program, guaranteed. And folks from our tax department go out and they examine to make sure that they've done exactly what they said they were going to do. That if they said they were going to put this much equipment in there, that it's actually there. And so that's a pretty big stipulation. And so all the time that they're doing that, that's when their incentive starts, when they've done all those things. So we've collected all that tax in the meanwhile, which we're already way ahead. And so then once the incentive period starts on that project, then they're going to get, once they've done everything they said they're going to do, they pay all their taxes, and they're going to get 85% back. We're going to keep 15%. And so residential development, that it was going to take 16 years just to pay for the schools, versus the Eli Lilly project, where we're going to get 15% of $2.2 billion. And I cannot do the math on 15% of $2.2 billion, but it's a lot of money, a whole lot of money, more than we would ever gotten if we'd allowed that housing development to be built there. So, I know that's a lot of talking, but I've repeated this same thing on the telephone to probably a dozen people just in the last several days when they ask, tell me how this works. And so if there's anything that I have said that is inaccurate, I would love to hear about it, because I've repeated this story before, and I'm going to repeat it again. And that is just a good example that you can look at, something you can see right now. So it's a good deal. And this, in my opinion, is a great deal. And this policy allows us the flexibility to do that. And so I'm perfectly satisfied with the track that we've taken so far, as well as the results that we've gotten so far. So I don't see any need for any additional discussion on it, but I'm happy to do it anytime anybody wants to.
So that was a lot of talking about it. And whenever you repeat this to the folks that you're talking to on the phone and tell them how good of a deal it is, I'm sure you're not telling about the campaign contributions behind it. And I
will absolutely tell them about the campaign.
Yeah. So when you're sitting with the president of Eli Lilly out there, is that when he gave you the $5,000 campaign contribution?
No, it was not. Yeah.
And how
you
about
go ahead and finish your question?
And yeah, no, there's no question. That's a statement. So I mean, it's such a good deal, but it's a good deal for you. The vote we took Monday night, you'd gotten $1,500 from the owner of that company. So, I think we need to have something in our policy that says that the elected officials cannot receive campaign contributions from these company PACs, from the individuals who own the company. There should be no financial, you should have no financial connection with any of this. That is a serious problem and a serious conflict of interest.
And I would seriously disagree with you. I think in any political campaign that you see anywhere in Cabarrus County, in North Carolina, anywhere in the United States, the people that support candidates for office, and I think that's probably true even in our presidential elections right now, typically the people that companies, PACs, individuals my support for office are people that share their views and that they approve of the policies that they have supported. And so I think that if political candidates wanted to solicit support and contributions from the people that don't like them or don't agree with the policies that they approve of, it would be a drastic change in the political climate in the entire, probably in the entire world, but certainly in the United States.
Right. So, of course, political contributions are really what's the problem with our political system, federally all the way down locally. And yes, somebody who doesn't like a candidate is not going to contribute to that candidate. But whenever a PAC group, a company PAC group, or an individual who owns a company gives you tax breaks or gives you campaign contributions, and you turn around and vote to give them tax breaks, that's where the problem is. It doesn't matter. Lynch, you may agree with your opinion on this policy, and he can give you a campaign contribution, but he doesn't have nothing financially, tied to that. Whenever you vote to give a tax break to somebody who's giving you campaign contributions, that's a problem. That's a conflict of interest, and we should have something in our policy for that.
And I think that when you support an incentive to recruit a company into Cabarrus County, you're not giving a tax break to that company. You're providing an opportunity for increased tax revenues, as I just described in that description, that benefits the taxpayers of Cabarrus County, in addition to providing job opportunities for all these students that we've been talking about during our morning session this morning. I feel very strongly about that. I do not see a conflict in that, and I will support people that follow that policy financially and otherwise, myself personally, and have done so in the past. And I would think that they would do the same with me.
Well, it's our duty to be good stewards of the tax dollars. And like I said, whenever you're financially tied to it, you should not be voting on it. It's just that simple. Makes sense. That's what's wrong with politics, federally all the way down to local level. And I mean, you could run your campaign how you see fit, and I don't even see this isn't even a campaign issue. This is a conflict of interest.
But one thing that I wanted to say, Chris, and you and I get along just fine, but we differ on our views with economic development and, of course, this thing with campaign contributions. And I differ with you as well, because this is America. This is still America, what's left of it. We got the old flag still out there, and we live in the greatest country there is in the world, and we have freedoms to go here, go there, vote for this one, vote for that one, give to this one or give to that one. But when it comes to an incentive, it still takes the majority of this board. It's not just Steve. It's not just me or just Kenny or Tim. And up until you were put on this board, Chris, for, I would say, the majority of economic development requests that we got, it was a unanimous decision to grant those incentives. And I know that you're against it. You've always been against it, and you've got a great following of people that feel that same way. But if we hadn't have done the things that we done, we would not be able to afford the things that we have been able to build, such as the courthouse and this building here, and the parking deck, and the new IT, and all the things that we've been able to do. This Board of Commissioners has done more in the last 8 years than probably the previous 5 or 6 boards of commissioners, because we've been very aggressive. We've been very aggressive with economic development. There for a long time, we didn't build schools. But since I've been involved in this political thing since the year 2000, I suppose I've probably been involved in at least 23, 25 schools. And there was a long time, Mike, you've been around forever, and we didn't build schools for a long time. But see, we've been able to do that And we've been able, and it can't all ride on the backs of the citizens. Can you imagine what the tax rate would be if we didn't have all this new development come in that we helped get here? We'd probably be paying $1 instead of 74 cents. And so, we've got to look at this thing in a reasonable way and instead of a selfish way. Do I agree with incentives? I don't. I don't like even though we're giving them back their money. But if we don't do it, it's just like Chairman Marr said. If we don't do it, then we're not even in the ball game. We're just sitting on the bench watching everybody else play. And we're just sitting there twiddling our thumbs. Well, why didn't we? We should have done that. We could have done that, but we're doing it. We're out there doing it. And we're trying our best to bring in good quality, high-paying jobs that's going to provide our students a place to go to work when they graduate. And to me, this is a no-brainer to me. But anyway, I'm not going to, criticize or anything like that because, I think we're supposed to agree to disagree and try to compromise and move on. But as long as I'm a member of this board, I will always support economic development.
Thank you for this packet of information. Be sure to read through it. I mean, obviously, I can't give you my opinion on it right now, but.
I will. No, this is one of these situations where, in my opinion, neither one of them are wrong. It's just a matter of an individual's preference. The one thing about the policy or the incentive package is it's flexible, and you got to vote. You can vote yes or no. And we, or at least I know I will. I'll look at each one of them individually. And if I think it's the best thing for this county and the taxpayers of this county, then I'll vote yes. If I don't think it is, it's a no. And it's really, to me, it's that simple. But just like last week, like I said, I'm not against incentives, but it was just bad timing on that particular one. So we each get one vote, and I just didn't know thought.
I just had, unless Commissioner Wortman has something to say. Oh, you already went? All right. So I wanted to share one piece of information because this is something that we identified during the last couple of months as an improvement we can make to the way we budget around this topic. So moving forward, David and Kevin are going to give us each year the valuation that is tied up in future economic grants. So those that have not yet commenced. So for example, in the current valuations that you've seen, there is almost $400 million of investment for grants that have not yet started. And the reason that's important is because the last thing we want to do as staff is allocate those dollars initially and then come back a year later when the grant kicks in and have to find those dollars. So we're going to reserve them, set them aside, benefit from them on one-time capital expenditures, but make sure they don't get allocated for ongoing expenses moving forward. So that's $400 million as of last month. There will be potentially appeals, changes in value, et cetera, et cetera. And the bulk of that $310 million is for Eli Lilly. So we did want to just note that. That's all I had, Mike.
Well, been a long today, body good discussion. We appreciate hopefully board member that what us the conversations. We appreciate your discussion and approval or out of approval, whatever that they need the discussion. Great. He's this department being here as well, and some that are not department, they're still here. And it's good for them to be EL football doing it well. But But there's this vision for everybody. I think we got our mark now to move forward to bring some of it back to you, and we will massage and then bring it back. They use those action and have a couple more check points after the bit. So thank you for
One question, and we've gotten a lot of information. This technology's been great to see things on the screen. One disadvantage to not having the printed booklet like we've had in years past is the ability to make notes on them as we go along, and also to be able to refer back to information as we're having that discussion. But I know Commissioner Shue was detained this morning, so is all of that information presented by the school systems, their slide decks or whatever, going to be available to us and to him?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Department heads and staff, thanks for you being here. Anybody having comment from out there? Did you enjoy the process? Being involved in the process as well? That's for a second meeting. Yeah. And our guests who had weathered or been through the entire session here. Yes, or did. Yeah. Great. That's all right. With that, I guess, Aaron, if you would some choose to speak, it was your deed.
Absolutely. Do we need a motion for that? So, commissioners, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our annual planning session retreat. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. We stand adjourned. Thank you.